fits. It just doesn't collapse for some reason. And I've tried this with many students of mine. It always works.
Here, Philip Pogadi again mentions the importance of going around, as he calls it, with the hand to even facilitate a rounded pinky that has more structural strength on the string for vibrato, for example. Again, emphasizing the importance of a good left-hand setup is Professor Fabiola Kim in a clip from her course on shifting.
I want to talk a little bit about a general hand frame, and this will be relevant to shifting. Well, playing the violin involves mostly hands and arms and upper body. You do want to think about how you're using your feet when you go from rest position to playing position. So I'd like to briefly describe what you need to do with your feet so you have a good foundation when you're standing and playing the violin. Typically in rest position, the feet will be together. And when you go from rest position feet to playing position feet, you're going to simply step out wider. The next thing I want to show you is how to do rest position, and I'll show you how to go into playing position. So rest position, as you can see, the violin is underneath my right arm, and make sure when you're doing rest position that you are keeping your arm behind the bridge here. We don't want to be putting pressure on top of the string. So, elbow just behind the bridge of the violin, and then you can hold it there. Going into playing position from here, you're going to use your left hand to hold on to the violin. I like to put my thumb around the top, the bottom part of the neck there, and then just wrap my fingers around the thumb on one side. And then put the violin out in front of you, like this. So that tabletop on top of your left hand. Make sure it is on the shoulder. But on the shoulder, not on the chin. When you're holding the violin with your hand out at the end of the fingerboard, like I was just done, this is one of the common errors that
새로 생긴 유튜브 채널인데 한번 들어봤습니다.
Third position is a key fundamental to learning how to play the violin, but also it gives you an unlimited opportunity to play. Discuss that with you for just a moment here. So recently in my violin lessons with my students, I've been seeing kind of a bit of a trend on my students' part where we are really neglecting the placement of how this part of the violin sits on our collarbone. Now, our collarbone is what helps us really get a good, comfortable position. I found that in my playing with a pronounced collarbone, when I have the body of the violin, the back of the violin really sitting on my collarbone, that really enables me to be really free with my instrument. And some people like to play without shoulders, some people like to play with shoulders, such as myself. I like having a shoulder just to add a little bit of that extra comfort into my neck. So when it comes to the actual placement of the violin, I've been noticing a lot of students holding their violin like this. If you don't know what's wrong with this image, let me explain. When it comes to position, you want to make sure that your violin look and be and let's say it's correctly placed. You want the bow to be perpendicular to the string. I've talked about this multiple times on the channel, but we don't want to have a crooked bow this way or that way. We want to have a good, solid 90-degree angle between the bow hair and the string. And that way, so that we can have a good down bow sound. Very important that we try to acknowledge that. If we have a different position with our violin, instead of this, but this, when you do a down bow, it may feel as though you're doing a straight bow, but look what's happening here. I do it automatically over the fingerboard. That's not a good sign, and you'll never get a good clear sound when you do it this way. So a lot of the bow problems that you may experiencing with the sound actually may not be a right hand problem after all. It could be a position and a posture problem. So when you're over here, just make sure something that is really common in the Suzuki method, that your nose is to your scroll. Nose to scroll. Very simple, that you try to get that so that way you are in line of sight of your fingers. That really helps, just so that way you understand how your fingers are, trying to be placed on the fingerboard, but also just for the sound quality of the right hand. So when you're playing, really clearly on the note. Now, it could be as basic as doing a down bow. You will notice that if your posture is correct, let's just do an example here. So I'm gonna stand right here. I'm gonna sit right here, very square, and I'm gonna put my violin to its side. Even if I try, it's really hard to see, but if I do a down bow, you can see how my entire bow hold is really not comfortable. My wrist is down and my pinky is flat. We want to have a good bow hold. Actually, I just released a bow hold course on this very topic. If you're having trouble with bow hold, I'll leave a link in the YouTube description below, so that way you can take a look at that. But the posture and the right hand, they kind of work hand in hand. I had a master class with Joseph Silverstein, who was a former concert of Boston Symphony Orchestra, former Utah Symphony music director, and he always talked about how the left hand and the right hand, they both work simultaneously together. It's very difficult to separate one from the other. And I think this is very much the case, where if you have your posture here, if your left hand is kind of incorrect here, that's what it's going to lead to. If your violin is to the side and your left hand is really uncomfortable, and then your right hand will all of a sudden be uncomfortable, you really want to be careful about that. So when you're practicing at home, you want to make sure that you are just being really intentional with how you're practicing in front of the mirror, how your
갑자기 산을 왜
is
가는데?
really good, and of course remember that your shoulders need to go down. You want your
조금만 더 하고.
neck to be aligned with your spine. You don't want your neck to be
안
going
해.
here. Especially in such a digital world, all of us are looking at our smartphones downward. We never look at our smartphones upward.
안
So our
돼.
posture really does suffer as a result. You want to be
안
careful.
돼.
Straight neck.
안 돼.